With that, David, let's take a look at this 1.62-mile circuit. They call it 10 turns, but it is always turning.
I think if you do a quick count there, you'll see there's actually 14. The start-finish line has been moved this year to that long left-hand sweeper. See a lot of action going to that very tight hook in the top right-hand corner of the picture there. A lot of turns here, somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 gear shifts a lap, depending on the rear end axle ratio. And obviously very difficult to pass here because it's narrow and walls both sides. There you see the view from inside, I guess, Pete Halsmer's car.
Pete Halsmer looking ahead at pole sitter Robbie Gordon. To the right is Halsmer's teammate Bryce Cobb. This should be a very interesting start. Pace car is off. The green flag is out. We are underway. Robbie Gordon will make a dash for the lead at the first corner. Bryce Cobb tucks in behind.
Dorsey Schrader comes. No, that's the Nissan of
Steve Millen
coming down the inside there.
And there's a battle between the number 6 of Dorsey Schrader, who gets taken by Jeremy Dale, Millen's teammate. Now the twisty right, left, right corners before the long front straightaway. The cars will reach up to over 140 miles an hour.
Pete Halsmer here on the horns of dilemma, just not quite sure how aggressive to be. He'd like to win the race, but he'd rather win the championship, and he wants at least absolutely essential to stay out of trouble, whereas, of course, Robbie Gordon has to win the race.
Can't emphasize too much how important it is to know this is not a permanent circuit. As you see Dorsey Schrader there getting under Pete Halsmer. Those concrete walls are made of 8,000-pound blocks. If you hit one, the chances are very good that your race is run.
Extremely good, and as you can see, they're pretty jolly close. Everybody pulling away from Pete Halsmer here, taking it careful. This is a nasty corner. I never like that little slot there. Really tight here. And as you can see, there's a couple of places where you're absolutely head on to the wall. So if you just get tapped from the rear, it can really just put you right into that wall.
It is a very slippery racetrack today as well. There have been some support races run. A lot of oil has been laid down. And we have one car off already. Car number 27 is Dave Mazier from El Toro, California, a 14-year veteran of NHRA drag racing in only his 4th professional road racing start. Dave Mazier running an ex-Irv Hare All-American Challenge car. Hare won the championship about 3 years ago in this car. Dave Mazier took it one lap.
A bad place to come without much experience at road racing of any sort. This is just not the sort. There's one of those walls I was telling you about where you go right head on.
Here's another look at Dave Mazier. You see him sliding sideways. He really tagged the right rear corner hard.
I think he got tabbed by the car behind him there, which you couldn't quite see what it was.
There's someone else involved. That car is still parked there, so it's a 2-car incident. There you see the number 77. That is R.J. Gottlieb from Los Angeles, just 21 years of age. Still in college up in Santa Barbara, California. And he has knocked himself out of the flow. We do have a caution. The safety car is out. The field is slowing down. And your leader, Robbie Gordon, will have Bryce Cobb make that Steve Millen just behind him in the number 75 Nissan. Then Bryce Cobb, Jeremy Dale, Dorsey Schrader, and Pete Halsmer. It is late in the afternoon at Del Mar. The sun will sink low. There will be a lot of glare off the racetrack. We haven't seen the last yellow flag of the day. Back in Del Mar, California, where we are under yellow for a 2-car incident, Robbie Gordon leads as he has from the green flag, followed by the Mazda, Steve Millen in a Nissan, Bryce Cobb's Mazda, Jeremy Dale in another Nissan, and Dorsey Schrader, Robbie Gordon's teammate, in a Ford Mustang. There you see the accident site being cleared. The accident involved Dave Mazier and R.J. Gottlieb. Both drivers are out of their cars and okay. Let's take another look at how it happened, David.
This is coming into the tight turn 10 complex, actually, and he just gets tagged from Mazier, gets tagged from the back by Gottlieb, and takes them both well and truly into that wall, doing quite a bit of damage to those cars.
It's a very fast part of the racetrack. Cars doing about 120 miles an hour or so. There is R.J. Gottlieb still in the car as they prepare to put it on the hook and tow it off. And as we said at the top of the show, if you make a mistake here at Del Mar, you are going to pay dearly for it.
There really is no room to make mistakes, and the track is very slippery today. They were warned before the race. They had a support race beforehand, which had laid down a lot of oil, and of course it really just doesn't help at all.
There is the Mazda of Bryce Cobb. This is an important moment in the history of Mazda. Ralph Shaheen took a look.
When it comes to IMSA's history book, the Mazda RX-7 can be found on numerous pages. And today, they will be entered in once again. This is the final time that we will see the RX-7 as we know it in IMSA competition with full factory support. The RX-7 was introduced at Daytona in 1979 and was victorious in this debut. And since then, it has been a dominant force in IMSA GTO GTU competition. In fact, over the last 13 years, the RX-7 has captured an IMSA record 106 victories, making it the winningest car in IMSA history. Mazda is by no means through with IMSA racing. Next year, you'll be able to see this beauty in competition, the RX-7 92P, as Mazda will step up now to GTP racing.
And those will make for exciting days indeed. Mazda will use the engine that took them to the championship at the 24 Hours of Le Mans this past season. There is Robbie Gordon, the overall race leader, and we have more now with Ralph Shaheen in his pit.
Bob, as you noticed, Robbie Gordon checked out on those first few laps, and Willie Baker is his crew chief. Now, Willie, are you going to give him all the leash he wants here today?
Yeah, we're going to turn him loose today. We figure there's going to be probably another yellow or two, this tight course here. So, and we're going to try to get a little bit of a lead if we can, and then bring him in later on if there's yellow and change tires. And, naturally, if there's a lot of yellows, we won't need to change. But we want to go like 15 to 30 minutes, see what happens. We're just going to let him go today.
I think one thing can be said here, Bob. One way or the other, Ford wants to leave their imprint on the rest of this field today.
They want to leave their Robbie as opposed to their mark. There's the 77 car of R.J. Gottlieb being dragged off. It's going to be tough. The Nissan there of both those Nissans, of Millen and Dale, certainly in those first 3 laps, really put on a lot of speed. So Robbie Gordon's going to have a job to hold them off, and he has to win this race.
As you saw, Robbie Gordon has 4 wins to his credit. He'd like to make it 5, matching his total from last year. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Del Mar, California. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, Chris McClure, and Ralph Shaheen. Glad to have you with us for this final event of the Exxon Supreme Series for 1991. Here are the GTO manufacturers' standings. Mazda leading Nissan by just 7 points. Ford with an outside chance at overtaking Mazda, but not likely. In the GTU category, just 4 points separate Dodge from Nissan in the manufacturers' battle. And in case you don't think that means much, keep an eye on your newspapers. In the advertisements, they're not going to tell you which driver won the race. They're going to tell you which car won the race. And we'll keep track of those battles as the afternoon wears on.
That's the old front straightaway that we just saw there, going through turns 1 and 2 here, the old 1 and 2. Coming up to the accident site, there's one of the cars pulled out there. This is that nasty little, real tight left-right. As you can see, nowhere to go, and you can see those streaks of oil off to the right. Picking up speed now, pace cars off, green flags out.
IMSA flagman Jim Sibley waves the green, and we are back underway on lap 10. After 7 laps of yellow, Robbie Gordon leads Steve Millen and Bryce Cobb. Millen locks them up underneath Robbie there in turn 1.
Right down the inside there. Brakes well and truly locked up. Front wheels, flat spotting the left front tire. Not quite such a tragedy on a car like this. Is a Formula 1 car. Weighs a lot more, of course. Nothing like a sensitive, but you don't want the tires to be too hurt right at the beginning of the race, which is what it effectively is for these guys.
If the race were to end now, Robbie Gordon would be first, Pete Halsmer would be 6th. Halsmer would clinch the Drivers' Championship by 4 points.
Yeah, Halsmer basically has got to finish worse than 8th. That is, assuming that Robbie Gordon wins the race.
Bryce Cobb all over the rear deck of Steve Millen's Nissan. Millen, the winner of the last 3 races coming into this event, and it's been a very low-key weekend for the Nissan team. They've had a lot of gearbox problems, but they've had those problems before and come back to win.
The car is very powerful. Virtually the same engine as in the GTP car, the same as Jeff Brabham drives. A V6, 3-litre, very, very powerful. And that, the Mazda behind it, of course, the rotary, gives away a good bit of engine cubic capacity, so it runs a lot lighter, which around a track like this probably helps it. It's a lot more nimble and a bit lighter. Of course, the Mazda people would like to see it lighter yet, and everybody else would like to see it heavier. So obviously it hasn't been too bad for them. You can see there on that last shot, the sun really starting to glint off this track. Very late in the afternoon to have a major race like this, I would have thought.
Robbie Gordon, you see the advantage. He begins to pull out now over Bryce Cobb, having gotten by Steve Millen for 2nd place. It is Millen. There's the number 76 of Jeremy Dale and the number 6 of Dorsey Schrader, the defending series champion. Dorsey has not won a race this season. In fact, the Roush Racing team, always among the best anywhere in the world, has not won a street race this year.
Dorsey Schrader's had a particularly miserable season, considering he is the defending champion, and he's obviously going quicker now than Jeremy Dale, and will try and dispense with him as long as he doesn't take them both out in the action.
I mentioned that Roush Racing has not won at all this year. They have won this race twice before. In '87, Chris Cord won in a Toyota. In 1988, Willie T. Ribbs, now of IndyCar fame, won for Toyota and Dan Gurney's team. In 1989, Wally Dallenbach Jr. won for Jack Roush. And last year, it was Robbie Gordon in his Mercury for Roush Racing. Look at that sun.
Yeah, and it gives you an idea of just how polished up this road surface is in the fairground here at Del Mar.
All the teams running on the very softest tire compounds they could get out here. It's a timed race, 1 hour, no specific set number of laps. And as a result, you just put on the softest tires you think will last the distance, and you get after it. There is Jeremy Dale, number 76, being hounded by the 6 of Dorsey Schrader. The leader's last lap speed, 85.82 miles an hour. That is faster than Robbie Gordon's pole-winning speed.
Schrader tried to get down the inside. Jeremy Dale was having none of it. So now it's going to take him a couple of laps to pull back to where he was before. If you're going to make a decision here to overtake somebody, you better get it right first time, because you can lose so much time when you finally have to pull right back and let the guy go, and then you've got to start all over again, catch him up.
It's Mazda versus Nissan for the GTO Manufacturers Championship. Nissan must win the race and Mazda finish third or worse in order for Nissan to cop that title. In GTU, if Nissan is to sweep, they must win, and Dodge must finish at least 2 places behind them. There's a look at young Jeremy Dale, who moved up from the GTU ranks. Dorsey Schrader out of Baldwin, Missouri, in the St. Louis area, the home of so many great race drivers. Rusty Wallace and Kenny Schrader come from not far from Dorsey Schrader's hometown.
Schrader doing a good job there with those last 2 corners coming onto this main back straight. This is probably the best place, one of the best places to overtake here, into this last right-hander. Not quite close enough, but he's very quick through here. He's had one go down the inside into the next corner. Rather reminiscent of Jean Alesi at the British Grand Prix, if I remember, nailing people at this obscure corner.
Until he tried it one too many times,
right.
Now here is the battle for the lead in the GTU category. Lighter cars, a bit smaller than the GTO machines. No turbocharging allowed. That is John Fergus of the 00 car. He is the newly crowned GTU champion. And right behind him is Butch Leitzinger out of State College, Pennsylvania, son of the former GTU champion, Bob Leitzinger, who has given up his title to the man right in front of his son there, John Fergus. Butch Leitzinger's biggest problem this weekend is he is a student at Penn State University in business administration. He has a term paper due on Monday following this Sunday race, and he hasn't started it yet.
But he seems to think he'll have time somewhere. The Dodgers have gone extremely well this year. Fergus, of course, clearly winning the championship, but the Manufacturers Championship is still open in this division, and Nissan are the ones that could take it off them. So that Nissan of the number 97 car there, Butch Leitzinger, should beat the Dodge. It still probably won't be enough. They need to get somebody. He needs to get somebody between him and the Nissan.
John Fergus racing for pride here today. He has already claimed the GTU championship, as we mentioned. We asked him before the race what it means to him to claim that title.
Well, it's a great thing, obviously. It was a little bit more than I expected for my first year in IMSA. I'm very proud to have done it. It's a credit to the whole crew, because you win championships by being consistent in all of the races. And that's what we had. We had consistency. We were able to win 8 of them and finish second 3 times. And that's just a real tribute to this whole full-time racing organization.
Full-time racing and their Dodges have been the kingmakers in the GTU category. Dorsey Schrader moved up from this team into GTO, as did Jeremy Dale, running for the Nissan GTO team right now. Whoa, Butch Leitzinger got real tail happy through that hard left-hand corner, and he's having to back off a little bit, giving a little breathing room to the 1991 class champion. These cars will get up to about 130 miles an hour on the straightaway. Once again, we are back up with Jeremy Dale and Dorsey Schrader. Just ahead of Dale is his teammate, Steve Millen. Third, fourth, and fifth. All right there. Once again, Dorsey looked underneath.
Same place with the same effect. He's got to make sure that he's a little bit more aggressive and get himself right in there first.
It is Robbie Gordon, Bryce Cobb, Steve Millen, Jeremy Dale, and Dorsey Schrader, the top 5 in Del Mar. Stay with us. Back at Del Mar, California, you're watching the leader in the All-American Challenge class, one of 3 classes racing simultaneously here at Del Mar. That black number 16 is Randy Ruhlman from Concord, California. Racing for a familiar name among American race fans, Tom Gloy, the former Trans Am champion. Whoa, looks like Perry Henry there is off the racetrack. He's got front end damage. Obviously tagged the wall in that very, very tight corner.
Ooh, now if he stops there, it is actually pretty much out of harm's way, but I would imagine they'd have to ring out a caution to move it. We have a massive cloud of smoke just outside the box here.
Ooh. There's a good reason. That is Vic Manueli, as I live and breathe. Vic races on the West Coast in anything he can get his hands on. Trans Am, IMSA GTO. That is a car 1 year from being eligible for vintage racing competition.
Well, Vic Manueli's day is done. Let's hope the others can find their way through that incredible cloud of smoke. Looks like he burned a hole in the piston somewhere and just pumped a ton of oil. There we see the number 99 car pierce through.
That's Phil Curran coming through. Phil in the American Challenge Series. He is the points leader in that category. And our race leaders coming through as the traffic begins to mix the running order here at Del Mar. Look at that cloud of smoke.
And there's Robbie Gordon.
Gordon about to put a lap on a few of the GTU competitors.
The 95 car in front of him, which in fact is Bob Leitzinger, who's leading the Nissan charge in the GTU division.
Leitzinger hops in behind the overall race leader, the number 9 Mustang of Robbie Gordon, looking for a tow. And here's where things get tight. This is where Perry and Henry pulled over. We'll see if it's any problem for the leaders. Now he's well out of the way. We have 25 cars, by my unofficial reckoning, still in the race. There's one of the Dodges at the back of your picture. That was the number 00 car. That was John Fergus. The newly crowned champion has stopped on the racetrack. His teammate in the identical car, Jeff Perner, is still making his way around, and I believe he will run second in the class behind Butch Leitzinger now. It was Fergus and Leitzinger, but Fergus has now pulled over. We'll try to find out what his problem was. There you see the car of John Fergus, who will not end his season the way he would have liked. He has 8 victories this year. He has dominated the class.
And that's the car that scores the yellow flag.
We're told now it is a broken drive shaft on the full-time racing machine of that man, John Fergus. Let's take a little closer look at the car that Fergus is driving. Ralph Shaheen took a closer look and presents it in a track fact. Track facts are brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
It's a well-known fact that the IMSA Exxon Supreme Series is a highly technological form of racing. But all the high-tech goodies are not just in the GTO cars. John Fergus's GTU Daytona has some pretty trick stuff. For example, John can control his front sway bar with this knob and his brake bias with this knob. He controls the rear sway bar here, along with the rear shocks and the front shocks. But what's really unique is right here. Along with the fuel pressure gauge, he uses the exhaust gas temperature gauge to let him know how the engine is performing. And he can make it run richer or leaner with this knob here. With all these dials and gauges, it's a wonder John has time to look up and see where he's going. This track fact is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
Once again, you ride with Pete Halsmer, presently shown in 6th. Behind Robbie Gordon, Bryce Cobb, Steve Millen, Jeremy Dale, and Dorsey Schrader. Behind Halsmer, it is Les Lindley, the Trans Am veteran, followed by Butch Leitzinger leading the GTU class, Jeff Perner pursuing him, then Randy Ruhlman, the leader in the All-American Challenge class, followed by Bill Auderland, Bob Leitzinger, Dave Loring, Steve Anderson, Andy Porterfield, Phil Curran, Dick Greer, and Wayne Serbo.
Well, if the GTU guys finish like they are at the moment, the Dodge team is is still going to win the championship, but it's going to be awfully close. They'll win it by just 2 points.
The safety car is indeed on the racetrack here in Del Mar. We'll take a quick timeout and return to the finale of the Exxon Supreme Series for 1991. Robbie Gordon leads. We are still under caution at Del Mar, California. Now that John Fergus, the reigning GTU champion, has had his car towed off, we expect to go green within 1 lap. Right now, let's take time for our Audi mid-race recap. Brought to you by Audi. Whatever the road, Audi lets you take control. Robbie Gordon in the number 9 Ford Mustang Turbo has led this race from the first green flag. We've had 2 cautions for a total of 16 laps. 9 cars remain on the lead lap, and the passing has been furious. Those cars out of the race, R.J. Gottlieb and Dave Mazier in a crash on the second lap of the race. Harry and Henry and Vic Manueli also out of the race, as is the car now off the racetrack. The reason for this yellow flag, the 00 machine of John Fergus. There you see the black number 99 of Phil Curran. Here's a guy who has raced in the International Motorsports Association every year since the series was founded back in 1970. He hails from Gainesville, Florida. He was the 1972 GTO champion. Right now he stands in line to pick up the All-American Challenge Series title here at Del Mar. Back in 1972, he had a couple of fellas on his crew, volunteers, college students from Florida named Mark Raffoff and George Silberman, respectively the president and executive vice president of IMSA. They now run the sanctioning body. Their man is still out there. Phil Curran wears the number 99. When asked why, well, let's just say Phil is a thrifty racer. We are under green flag once again. Get on to my Phil Curran story in just a moment. There you see the 9 of Robbie Gordon, who has had this race by the throat since the first green flag.
He certainly has absolutely dominated. Every time we have a green, he just disappears into the distance. Bryce Cobb made it up to second spot, but even so, he couldn't hold on to the Mustang through the twists and turns of this Del Mar track. And of course, Pete Halsmer back in 6th spot is very happy to be there. As long as he doesn't go to 8th or lower, he's okay for the championship.
6th spot gives Pete Halsmer 4 points on Robbie Gordon for the title. There goes the 63 of Bryce Cobb, the 76 of Jeremy Dale, getting around the 96 of Dave Loring.
Now then, there's the 76 car, there's the 96 car of Dave Loring. Right in front of him is the 76 of Jeremy Dale. And just a few moments ago, Jeremy Dale was under extreme pressure from Robbie Gordon's teammate, Dorsey Schrader, who we don't seem to see now. Not quite sure what's happened to him. There he is. Drop back just a little bit. 75, Steve Millen.
Steve Millen won the most recent round of the series in Lime Rock, Connecticut. Immediately flew to Sydney, Australia, where he drove in the famous Bathurst 1,000-kilometer race there, and then flew back for this race. Now let's get more on the Leitzinger situation down in the pits, where Chris McClure is patrolling with Ralph Shaheen. Chris, what can you tell us?
While in the full-time racing pit, disappointment with the Fergus mechanical failure, but a big argument in terms of Jeff Turner, because when the yellow flew, to make a long story short, the pace car picked up the GTO leader, Robbie Gordon. That allowed Leitzinger to go all the way around and join the back of the serial, while Jeff Turner was caught behind the pace car. He's running in 2nd place, but he's almost a lap down. Now, Emery Donaldson was furious about that because it could mean the manufacturer's championship. And we were able to, he went down to race control, got nowhere with them and trying to get the lap back, and he's come back here. He said, that's racing, but the championship could be lost, and he's angry.
Well, the way it stands at the moment, with Butch Leitzinger, the number 97 Nissan, leading the GTU championship and Jeff Turner lying 2nd, that means if that all worked out like that at the end of the race, in fact, Nissan would win the manufacturer's title by 1 point. I slightly misled you earlier on. Of course, it's a 5-point spread between 1st and 2nd, so they would, in fact, win by 1 point.
A manufacturer scores points based on the position of the first car, the highest ranking car in the field. You can't put 3 or 4 cars out there to stock up on points. There is the number 63 of Bryce Cobb.
Currently in 2nd spot.
Bryce Cobb originally from Dallas, Texas, now resides in Evergreen, Colorado, with his wife Lisa and his daughters.
Bryce Cobb came out of Formula Atlantic, where he was very successful, got into GTP racing with the Dyson team in the Porsche, won a bunch of races, won the Porsche Cup 3 times, a very prestigious thing, went on to race for Jaguar, won the Le Mans 24-hour race, and went back a step, so it would seem, to drive the GTO Mazda, but of course he knew that they were going to come out with their GTP car next year, and no doubt Bryce Cobb looking forward very much to next year. Jeremy Dale in the 76 Nissan, followed by his teammate Steve Miller in the 75 car. Much trouble, man, as you said. The 72 car, flame out there by the look of things.
That's Gary Beal from Venice, California. He's got a problem with that Mazda.
Doesn't want to start, does it?
Excess fuel in the headers burning off.
Well, it's a characteristic of these rotary engines. They tend to do that.
I think he got it fired just there.
Fired up.
Gary will tell you straight out, he bought this car just a few months ago, and he is learning how to race it. He says he's been learning by breaking it. Takes it to race after race, does the best he can. His left front tire is all the way down. He was assisted in this spin. Watch the car at the lower right corner of your screen. His left front tire is flat, and as he turns in, the car goes in the opposite direction. Antonio Covelli and the rest of the field getting a little skitterish trying to get around him. Now it has stalled again, and now he has a serious fire, it would appear. I think maybe the bodywork has caught fire.
Yeah. I think that's, I don't know why it stalled again the second time.
Well, I mentioned he learned how to run this car by racing it. He's learning a big lesson here today. Gary Beal, 29 years old. Meanwhile, here is Pete Halsmer, the potential champion in the GTO class. He won it in 1989. Was in a tremendous battle here at Del Mar last year for second place when Dorsey Schrader took the championship. You're riding right now with Pete Halsmer as he comes upon a slower GTU Mazda up ahead. Robbie Gordon is your leader, and we'll be back in just a moment. At Del Mar. There you see the number 9 of GTO and overall race leader Robbie Gordon from Orange, California. But just behind him, the number 97 of Butch Leitzinger, the GTU leader, has slowed dramatically. There's the 97.
He seems to, I mean, it looks okay, but he has definitely slowed way. Oh, the 87 car there. 81.
Antonio Covelli from the San Diego area getting sideways.
Looks like he's got a flat tire coming on, or he ran across a big patch of oil. Locked up badly on braking there for that tight complex.
Butch Leitzinger's lead in GTU could be threatened. You heard Chris McClure tell us a few moments ago that the Dodge team was very upset that this car was allowed to gain a lap on the field when the overall race leader, Robbie Gordon, was brought under caution for a crash. Right now, it looks like a bit of ironic justice may be at play. Certainly the Dodge boys are going to be glad to see this. Butch Leitzinger has a problem. There's the number 75 GTO Nissan of Steve Millen in 4th place going by. But that means that the 2nd place GTU car of Jeff Perner has a long way to go to make it up. Surely by now he knows that the leader is in trouble.
There's Steve, just in front of the car here, the 97 car, was the old battle between Dorsey Schrader, just going out of the picture there, Dorsey Schrader and Jeremy Dale. I wonder he could have a problem. On the other hand, he could have decided that this race is going to end quick enough for him to just cruise around and still win the class.
Now there's the 2nd place GTU car, the black and yellow 07 of Jeff Perner out of Glens Falls, New York. Man who now serves as the chief driving instructor at Road Atlanta in Gainesville, Georgia.
Now he has fallen back into the clutches. There is the 95 car, is that, of
95 is Bob Leitzinger.
Bob Leitzinger, Butch's father. Bob Leitzinger is a very, very good driver in his own right, and as you can see, he's giving both those cars, the 7 car squeezes through.
Now that's a Bill Auberlin in the 7 car.
He takes over 2nd spot in the GTU challenge here today.
Sun getting low, tremendous glare. Right now it's behind the drivers' heads, but on the front straightaway it'll be right in their eyes.
That's the 16 car. That's Randy Ruhlman, who's leading the All-American Challenge Championship.
Then Oberlin, second in GTU. Then this man, the 07 of Jeff Perner, third in GTU. Just behind him, Bob Leitzinger, 51 years old. The man who has been stripped of the GTU championship by Perner's teammate, John Fergus, who is now out of this race.
And
now Oberlin with problems over on the left.
And Leitzinger looking to set up number 07.
So Perner takes over second from Oberlin, and Leitzinger takes second now from Perner.
Perner must have run into a problem with his tires.
Everyone trying to stretch the softest rubber compound they can. This is a temporary circuit. These are the parking lots of the Del Mar racetrack.
As you can see from all the white lines there.
And no one can test on this surface, so you have to perhaps just remember what compound you brought a year ago. The drivers say the traction has been very good, which is unusual on a temporary circuit. 75 car Steve Millen now battling for fourth place with Dorsey Schrader in the number 6.
Is that 75 or is that 76, the Nissan?
That's the number 75 of Steve Millen. Dorsey
right.
Schrader just behind him.
Dorsey Schrader certainly had his work cut out trying to get around Nissan this afternoon. Had a big tussle earlier on with Jeremy Dale. Now he's having a big tussle with Steve Millen.
Now just behind them appears to be Les Lindley, who was shown in 7th position. But he is a lap down. Now there is Bill Oberlin. We've got action all around the racetrack. Oberlin with serious problems, and he is just approaching that fast left-hand kick that David talked about. He's going to let him through.
He let him through, yeah. That was really good thinking there on his part. Dorsey Schrader. Windscreen full of Nissan wing. Into the sun there. Sun behind them.
Battle continues. Steve Millen gets the slower car of Dick Greer between he and Dorsey Schrader. We'll take a quick timeout and return to Del Mar.
And they are having at it. Yeah, we're looking at 4th, 5th.
In the closing minutes of the Exxon Supreme Series at Del Mar, this is a view of what happened just moments ago to Phil Curran leading the All-American Challenge Series in this race. You saw the battle between Dorsey Schrader and Steve Millen go by. Watch the lower part of your screen. There goes Dick Greer in the red car. Greer chasing Curran for the championship in that class. And if Phil Curran can't get it going again, he's going to lose that title.
Looks like it's locked up on him, doesn't it? I mean, I thought at first he'd spun out because he went wide to let the 63 Mazda through.
And he's out of the car.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty tough on Phil Curran, leading the championship, coming into here with 6 points over Dick Greer. Dick Greer at the moment is running 4th in the class, which would get him 8 points. So that would win the championship for Greer by 2 points if he finishes where he is now.
4th place will get him 10 points. Let me correct you, David. It's 20, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now there are the two Nissan teammates, Millen and Dale. The 75 is Steve Millen in 3rd, then Jeremy Dale. And we'll have to check the running order. I think Dorsey Schrader has gotten by them both and disappeared. There is the man who it appears will be the champion in the IMSA All-American Challenge Series, Dick Greer from Columbus, Ohio. You see that little white decal in the front? It says SBOA. I asked Dick what that stands for. He said, Ski Bums of America.
Yeah, Dick from Columbus, and of course he won the class at the Daytona 24-hour race in a GTU car. There's our leader, number 9, Robbie Gordon. Late afternoon sunshine here in Del Mar, California. The coast just the other side of that fence, the cool waters of the Pacific Ocean. He's not thinking at the moment, though. He's thinking, I hope that Halsma has a problem.
Well, right now he's running out of minutes in this 1-hour race. He has done everything he could. Young 22-year-old Robbie Gordon says his goals are Formula One. He has already tested a Formula 3000 car. The Nissan teammates have changed position. Jeremy Dale is now ahead of his teammate Steve Millen. That makes Dale 4th and Millen 5th. And in fact, Dorsey Schrader is ahead of them.
Jeremy Dale, in fact, is leading his teammate in the championship by just 4 points. And seems to be able to pull away just a little bit here. Les Lindley behind him in the number 8 Camaro, the yellow Camaro, but I think that's a lap down.
Lindley is being shown as a lap down. Up ahead of these cars, Bryce Cobb and his Mazda run 2nd behind your race leader, Robbie Gordon. There you see Les Lindley out of Anaheim, California. the man with a wealth of Trans Am starts, and Phil Curran's car is still parked in the middle of that corner with a local yellow.
Guess they're getting down to the wire here as Pete Halsmer takes us up behind one of the slower cars into that tight left, right, left again, right up to the wall there.
I think that was Gary Beal who we saw flaming out in that Mazda earlier. Good to see Gary's got it started again.
Give you an idea there, when he went down the inside of Gary Beal on that little right-hand sweep, you could see that he can't see anything, in fact, around those walls. Very, very tricky place to drive this. Obviously, they decided to leave Phil Curran's car where it was because we're so close to the end of the race. It just wasn't any point having another full course caution to get it out. Disappointing for Phil Curran, though. It looks like it locked up.
When asked why he is number 9, Phil Curran said back in his SCCA days, when you couldn't depend on having a certain number in a race, he brought 6s, which he could make into the widest variety of numbers possible. He's now number 99. Pete Halsmer is on his way to the 1991 Exxon Supreme Series Championship. There is the 9 of Robbie Gordon. He will win this race for the second straight year, it now appears. But Pete Halsmer will win the championship. Bryce Cobb's second place for Mazda will lock up the Manufacturers' Championship in GTO for them. The checkered flag is in the hands of flagman Jim Sibley. And awaits Robbie Gordon.
And Butch Leitzinger, in winning the GTU, will take the Manufacturers' Championship away from Dodge. So convincingly won for the driver of Fergus, but the championship looks like it's going to, the Manufacturers' Championship looks like it's going to go to Butch Leitzinger.
And so the championships will be locked up today. They will hand out the checks at the awards banquet, and everyone will get ready to do it again next year. Down to the finish line comes Robbie Gordon from Orange, California. There you see the 62 of Pete Halsmer, who will win his second GTO overall championship. There is Dick Greer in the red number 82. It appears he will win the All-American Challenge Championship. And a bit of a tomahawk chop in honor of the Atlanta Brave.
Won the battle but lost the war. Mazda maintained their lead in the Manufacturers by Bryce Cobb coming second.
Congratulations to Dick Greer, number 82, a good guy who's been doing this for a long time. A well-deserved championship. It will be Pete Halsmer in GTO, in GTU John Fergus, and Dick Greer in the All-American Challenge Series. We'll be back to Del Mar in just a moment. The 1991 Exxon Supreme Series is about to come to a close. It's time for the celebrations to begin. Time to congratulate the champions. And time to turn Del Mar Fairgrounds back into a horse track for another year. Our ESPN Speed World coverage has been brought to you by Exxon Phase 4 gasoline. For high performance and cleaner air, rely on new Phase 4 gasoline from Exxon. By Audi. Whatever the road, Audi lets you take control. And by Yokohama Tires, advanced technology on wheels. Back at Del Mar on a beautiful afternoon, here are the top 15 final results in this final round of the Exxon Supreme Series. Robbie Gordon wins the race over Bryce Cobb, Dorsey Schrader, Jeremy Dale, and Steve Millen, 6 through 10. Pete Halsmer locking up the championship, followed by Les Lindley, GTU Division winner Butch Leitzinger, All-American Challenge winner Randy Ruhlman, and Bob Leitzinger. 11 through 15, Jeff Perner, David Loring, Steve Anderson, Andy Porterfield in a GTO car, and Dick Greer, the champion in the All-American Challenge Series. Right now, down in Victory Lane, Ralph Shaheen is standing by with our overall winner, Robbie Gordon.
Well, Bobby did basically what he wanted to do. He came out and decimated the field, but Robbie, the lucky penny, just came up a little bit short. You get the win, but not the championship.
Yeah, you know, it's okay. We won 5 wins. That's more than anybody in the series with our Whistler Mustang. We just had some mechanical failures that cost us the championship. Every race, we were right there to win and had little problems. But as you can see, we ran hard all day today and put the car on the pole, and that's the best we could possibly do for the championship.
Well, Robbie Gordon has already celebrated a little bit. He did a dance on the roof, and now the crew's got something to fix over the winter.
From Columbus, Ohio,
All right, thank you very much. Robbie Gordon, a champion. I think he's learned something today, and he's got a long racing future ahead of him. Taking a look at final points in GTO, Pete Halsmer by 4 points. It was that way when they finished the first lap, and it is that way at the end. He wins over Robbie Gordon, followed by Bryce Cobb, whose second place finish locked up the manufacturer's title for Mazda. Jeremy Dale, fourth, and Steve Millen, fifth for Nissan in the points. Standing by now with our GTO champion is Chris McClure.
Pete Halsmer, twice a champion in the division, twice this year with the manufacturers and your drivers' championship. You said to me a moment ago, your crew never gave up in the ups and downs of 1991. On the track today, teamwork superb in here. Teamwork superb all the way.
Well, that's really true, and you can't say enough about the guys. You know, we've had our ups and downs since the middle of the season. We really have struggled to be able to win a race just because of the ways the rules turned out. And the guys just hung in there, and they went after it every time, and we said, we're not going to give up. We're going to get every point we can, and that's why we came in here with a decent lead, and we were able to do what we did, and I'm really proud of them. Thank you, Mazda.
Thank you, Chris. Here are the final points in the GTU class. John Fergus clinched the title coming in. Didn't finish the season the way he would have liked, dropping out of today's race, but nevertheless, he is champion over David Loring. In the All-American Challenge Series, Dick Greer with a spectacular come-from-behind championship charge when poor Phil Curran broke down on the racetrack with just a few laps to go. We thank you for being with us from Del Mar. For Chris McClure, Ralph Shaheen, and David Hobbs, I'm Bob Varsha. So long, everyone, from Del Mar, California.